The U.S. solar industry is sharply divided on President Donald Trump's recent tariff. On Monday, Trump slammed a 30% tariff over 4 years on imported solar cells and panels. The White House says it's designed to punish China for its subsidies, but many experts warn the policy could backfire on the U.S. The Solar Energy Industries Association expects 23,000 job losses this year as a result. Joining us now to discuss this is the CEO of the group, Abigail Ross-Hopper. So first of all, just tell us a little bit about your members' reaction to this news of the tariff.
Good afternoon. My members are dismayed at the president's decision to impose this tariff. We think that the 30% tariff on cells and modules will have a devastating impact on the demand here in the U.S. market.
How does that happen? How do you think it will hurt demand?
Well, if you think about it, the tariff is basically a 30% tax, right? And the solar panels are a really important part of any solar system. So you just raise the price by 30% of one of the most important elements of the solar system, which makes it uneconomic in lots of cases. So, you know, residents who want to put it on their houses, businesses who want to put it on their roofs, and utilities that want to buy it and build power plants are all likely to have to rethink whether it makes economic sense to do that now.
At first glance, I'm looking and seeing you represent U.S. solar energy industries, companies in there, and this is a tax against companies from outside the U.S. It almost seems like you might be in favor of this. Doesn't it help make your members more competitive?
It's an interesting question. So I represent over 1,000 companies in the United States. This petition was brought by just two companies here in the U.S. The rest of the companies represent everyone from engineers to electricians and a lot of other manufacturers. So people that are manufacturing inverters and racking systems and all sorts of other parts that you need to build a solar system. So in fact, the majority of the industry is opposed to these tariffs because we think it will really hurt demand and therefore hurt business here in the U.S.
I see. So you're all using these panels that are coming in and then it's going to raise prices. But now I understand that the prices are actually falling really fast in this industry, in the solar industry. And some people are arguing and saying, you know, it's really not, the tariff's not going to make that much difference because the cost is coming down so quickly.
The cost has come down quickly, you're right. And that's been because of innovation and investment of these companies. But, you know, 30% is a pretty significant amount, and we think it will be impactful. We think, you know, 23,000 people losing their jobs, that's a lot of people whose jobs will probably not exist by the end of this year.
And how did you get that number of 23,000 jobs?
So we looked at what the cost impact would be by a 30% tariff and looked at what that would do to demand, and it really decreases demand by about 2 gigawatts, or maybe about 20% in the U.S. And then the United States Department of Energy has a formula by which you take the number of installed capacity and multiply it by this formula, and you get the jobs numbers. And that's how we got 23,000 jobs to be lost.
And I'm curious to hear your thoughts about why the president has imposed this tariff. I've seen different theories that it's just, you know, more sort of protectionist behavior, protecting American companies. But then other people saying, well, no, he actually wants to, you know, hurt alternative energies in order to support the coal industry. What do your members think about the reasoning behind this?
It's a great question. I think, you know, if you look at the proclamation and sort of, as you referenced in your opening, the rhetoric around this decision, you talked a lot about China. We actually have tariffs already on Chinese panels and modules. And so I think this conversation is a lot about his trade policy and his protectionism. I'm not convinced that it's really about fuel source, because he did the same thing to washing machines the same day he hit tariffs on solar panels. So it's really about kind of a view of America and about our place versus China. The problem is last year only 10% of solar panels came from China. 90% came from other countries around the world, and all of those countries are likely to be hit, or will be hit, with this tariff.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Abigail Ross-Hopper is the CEO of the Solar Energy Industries Association in Washington, D.C.